Sometimes the solution to making your synth sound perfect is not actually within the synth itself. Sometimes you just need to combine some things to get a more sophisticated, more interesting sound to listen to, and that is what we are talking about today. If you haven't been following along, this is part of a 5-week series on sound design. You can get involved in that by just hitting that like button and clicking that subscribe button. But let's just talk about layering right now. So there are a couple of sure things that you can do that will create layers that are just going to work most of the time. So first thing we should talk about is opposites attract. So if you have a lead sound that's sort of sustained, pairing that with something that's short and percussive is probably going to sound good together. Now, of course, the opposite does apply. If you have two sounds that are extremely similar but perhaps sit in a different frequency range, that can occasionally really help to step up a sound. And last but not least, you can always use the piecemeal layer effect, where you are using different parts of different synths to round out a whole sound. So you might take the attack from one thing, the sustain from one thing, and the decay from another thing to create something interesting and different. Without further ado, though, let's check out some examples. So I want to start with just this idea of layering opposite sounds together. So here I've got some patches loaded up, and this is just a pretty typical supersaw lead sound. It sounds like this. You can give it a little more volume. And that's a decent sound, but it really starts to come alive when you pair it with something that is a little more percussive. So we'll start with this. This is Dirty Pluck, which comes with my Main Stage to Ableton course, and it sounds like this. So it's a really punchy, poppy sound, and when I put these together, this is what you get. If I solo out just the original sound, and both together. So major difference there, and all I've done really is add in another sound. This guy's pretty similar, but I think it's worth showing. It's a little bit more of a metallic type sound, and when I pair that with the lead sound, it sounds like this. And so it's subtle, but it really does have a huge effect on how the sound comes across to the listener. So the next thing I want to talk about is pairing similar sounds. So I've got 3 piano patches loaded here. One is the Grandeur. And one is a heavily processed Giant. And one is the Slow Burn Piano from the Pro Piano Effects Rack. And these all work on their own, but you can get something really interesting when you start to combine piano sounds. So here's the Grandeur. But if I'm looking for the sound to really be full, combining it with this processed, highly processed Giant is going to create a really interesting effect. And similarly, you get a pretty cool vibe when you combine it with the Slow Burn Piano, which is a little bit more mellow. And the last thing I want to talk about is this piecemeal idea. So the easiest way to display this is actually with a patch that I created for Pieces by Bethel Music, and it's just a super verby vibraphone sound combined with a piano. So in context, it would be. But this can work in a lot of cases. So if we pull the attack back on here, you're going to get this sort of interesting metallic-y sound. But if I really pull the attack out, what you're going to get is almost the sense that the piano has a reverb that is a vibraphone. So we're taking the attack from the piano and the sustain decay from this vibraphone patch. So check this out. I'll pull this back so you can hear that just a little more clearly. And if you keep them roughly at the same attack, you just get this cool layered sound. So those are 3 ways that you can use layering to make your patches more awesome. Now, to stay up to date, make sure you like and subscribe. On the screen right now, you'll see links to the other videos in this sound design series, and if you want to go deeper, there's also a link at the bottom of the screen for my Sound Design for Keyboard Players course. If you're ready to really take sound design into your own hands and use the software or the synthesizers that you have for all they are worth, that's a fantastic place to start, and I will see you next week.